Tomorrow, House Republicans will cast a vote making clear their threat to the country. Defund Obamacare or we'll shut down the government. It's a horrible idea, and more Republicans admit it. GOP Senator Bob Corker calls it, quote, a tactic that will fail and weaken our position. Senator Richard Burr said it was one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard of. Congressman Tom Cole calls it a temper tantrum. And Karl Rove calls it a self-defeating and it's ill-conceived. Joining me now is Congressman Doug Collins, Republican from Georgia, a co-sponsor of the bill to defund Obamacare as part of any plan to fund the government. Thanks for joining me, Congressman.
Good evening, Al. It's good to be with you.
Now, why do you think you're right and these other Republicans are wrong?
Well, I believe at this point in time, I'm new up here, but I ran on a campaign and understanding and listening to the American people over this health care issue. And one of the things since I've gotten up here, Al, I'm going to just be honest with you, I've just sat back and listened to the Democrats. I've listened to my friends across the aisle who've called this a train wreck. They've called it a mistake. They've called it not ready for prime time. They've just went on and on about how this law is not ready to be. Even the president has put it off from the business mandate and putting things together. This is not ready for the American people. So the Republicans are not shutting down the government. In fact, we're fully funding the government through our CR, except we're saying we're not ready to impose this upon the American people. We're protecting the American people through funding the government, but we're also protecting them through taking a law in which Democrats will admit is not ready.
Well, wait a minute. You said you listened to the American people. The American people voted when this was an election issue last year. Were you listening then? The Congress voted and made it law. Were you listening then? The Supreme Court said that it was constitutional. Were you listening then? You're a congressman. You are deciding that a law that was passed, that was certified by the Supreme Court, you can decide not to fund?
Well, I think it's really interesting that you would make all those assessments, and then you have the President of the United States taking black-letter law on a date in which one part of the health care law was supposed to take place and deciding that, well, that's not really what the law meant. I'm going to delay that for a year because I didn't like the consequences of it. Al, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that Republicans are not listening to the American people when, by the way, if you look at the polls recently, most are coming around to the conclusion that this is not a good idea for the American people. And then you can't have both sides when you got the administration putting off
Congressman, you and I both know you can have polls in your district and doesn't mean the elections were there. And the president delaying part of an enactment has nothing to do with you and your colleagues saying you will not fund what is law. If we allow members of Congress to decide they're going to take a law and stop the funding, you can nullify any law you choose. That's not the basis of a democracy, Congressman.
Well, it is the basis of democracy when you read Article 1, Al. In fact, that's where the understanding is that the Congress controls the purse strings. The Congress decides who and what is to be funded from this government. And there have been plenty of examples over time in which there have been things that are not funded, from Yucca Mountain to many others, in which the Congress decides what this is. This is not about a debate on anything else except Congress doing its role, reflecting the respective views that we have about this law, and fully funding the government. Do not let your viewers tonight be mistaken. We are truly funding the government. We're simply saying, on the advice of others in the Democratic Party who said this law is not ready for prime time, we're saying we'll protect you from both, and that's what we're doing.
The Congress is saying that we will shut the government down, the Republicans, if we have to fund Obamacare. You're not just saying you don't want to fund it. You're saying you're going to do this or we're going to shut the government down. The president is not saying that. Republicans that have just criticized is not saying that. You guys are saying more than you don't want to fund it. You say my way or we're going to shut the whole government down.
Now, we just got to disagree with you here. The president's the one that brought up that the Republicans are wanting to shut the government down. Harry Reid is saying he's not negotiating. Republicans are wanting to shut the government down. At this point in time, we're the only ones that have put forward a plan that actually funds the government, that defunds Obamacare. But if it gets to the point, if you want to put a face on shutdown of this government, then you look to Harry Reid. You look to those in the Senate. You look to the president. They're the ones that have been threatening this specter of shutdown.
Let me ask you a question.
We're not putting that up.
All right, fair. Now, let me ask you a direct question. If, in fact, the United States Congress has to go forward with Obamacare, which is law, the Affordable Health Care Act, would you therefore say that you would not vote to shut down the funding for the rest of the government? Or are you saying in this bill that if any of this is funding the Affordable Health Care Act, that you will not go forward in paying the country's bill and paying the funds that are available for the rest of what the budget is at this point?
I will say exactly what I've been saying all along in this interview and before this interview. We are putting forward a bill that funds the government, and in the House right now, we're funding the government. We're taking care of the American people and protecting them from something in which the polls and others come out. We're not doing it.
As long as health care is not in it.
Hey, we're putting that bill forward. We're sending it to the Senate. Now it's time for the Senate to act on this.
No.
Shut down the government, then we're fine.
Sir,
no, you're doing that
as long as health care is not in it, right?
At this point, that is the bill that we're putting forward, Al.
Which is shutting down the government if you don't have your own way. Let me ask you something.
Al, wait, Al. There's two. I'll go along with it, but there's two sides to this equation. There's the House and the Senate. We're putting forward a bill that funds the government, fully funds the government, no specter of a shutdown, and it's now time for the Senate to decide, and if Harry Reid and the rest want to stand in the way, then that's their choice.
Fully fund the government if it does not include the health care bill. You said you're a new congressman. You just got there. In your district, sir, 147,725 people, 21% of your district doesn't have health insurance. How can you say to your constituents that with this bill can be insured with pre-existing conditions, can have their kids on till they're 26 years old? Nothing has been done in advance to help them. Here you have a bill that will help them. How do you go home and tell them you're doing the right thing?
Well, I'll be happy to take you to the 9th District of Georgia, and you go give those statistics. And when they realize that not all of those are going to be covered by health care, then they can ask you the question, where's our health care? This bill does not fully take all the uninsured off the rolls. And in the 9th District of Georgia, it is by far an outpouring against this bill. Everywhere I go, people are nervous, they're uncertain, and they do not understand why the government is forcing them to do this in their health care.
The government is not forcing them. What people don't understand, Congressman, is how we pass laws the Supreme Court upholds, and you guys come in and say, we're not going to fund it, and even worse, if money goes there, we'll shut the whole government down. We thought we lived in a democracy with a balance of powers between three branches of government. We didn't think the Supreme Court, the Congress, and the voters could be told, we're going to tell you all, take a hike, we'll shut it all down if we don't have it our way. Come on, Congressman, that's not what this country's supposed to be about.
Hey, Al, just a reminder, this isn't a democracy, it's a republic. And we're reflective of the people that we represent.
This is not a democracy.
It's a republic, Al. Look at the Constitution. We're reflecting the people of the 9th District. And again, I just want to make one thing very clear. And I enjoy having this conversation with you.
I enjoy having it too, because I really hope the people in the 9th District know on the next election that they should not vote thinking this is a democracy, that Doug Collins says this is not a democracy. I'll even send you the clip so you can play it in your next campaign.
Well, you don't have to worry about that. This is the 9th District of Georgia knows where I stand. They know where the Republicans stand tomorrow. That is that we're going to protect them from a bad law, and we're going to fund the government. If the Democrats want to play politics or you want to discuss things that may or may not happen, then that's fine. But we're doing the people's business. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
In a republic. Congressman Doug Collins, thank you very much for your time. Now let's bring in Jamal Simmons.